Welcome back, everyone, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
We are entering a new chapter.
Of our lives?
We still, yes. Assuming.
Are the days of our lives. Oh, how does that go?
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's funny that you remember that more than I do.
There were a couple summers where we didn't have anything to do, and my older sister was older and had control of the TV. I remember Bo and Hope and Patch.
Mm.
That's about all I remember. The guy named Patch.
And he had a patch, right?
Yeah, he had a
okay. He was scruffily he had like a beard like you.
He was the bad dude.
Yeah, he was a bad boy.
But then probably not fun to kiss him because of all the scruff, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm growing mine back out again. Well, okay. We still have any Game of Thrones to talk about, you guys. We just sort of...
Are we ever going to?
Yes. HBO says yes.
Okay.
Yep. They're working on it.
All right, HBO.
I'm sure the pandemic isn't helping, but they say yes.
But they've already canceled.
They canceled one prequel. But they started another one.
I'm just saying.
So after The Witcher, which we admittedly kind of rushed to the end there because of this timing, but we talked about maybe we were going to just take a look at Watchmen next because we wanted to talk about stuff that's very civil rights oriented. And then this fell into our laps. Mm-hmm. Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country.
So we'll come back around to Watchmen someday and discuss the themes. Speaking of themes, could you just write a song? I mean, J. Sarge hasn't done any theme for us yet, but if you could just make that into a jingle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Does it need to go along with the tune that is already on the Lovecraft show?
There wasn't really an opening.
Was there?
There wasn't really an opening theme.
Maybe there will be next time.
Maybe. And if not, then I don't know what we'll do. But you could sing. I think that'd be great.
All right.
J. Sarge gets a vacation if Jennifer sings.
Well, I mean, there's music to go in the background, not just me singing, right?
We'll see.
I don't like that.
Okay, so Lovecraft Country, we saw the commercials for it. We talked about this a few weeks ago on The Witcher stuff, but if you weren't following The Witcher along with us, when we saw the previews for Lovecraft Country, it immediately struck us as A, a fun show, but B, it was clearly going to be like it was set in times of racial strife featuring a fully black cast. And the most intriguing thing to me about that was H.P. Lovecraft being known as a horrible racist monster, who also wrote this really interesting fiction.
Right.
But he, as a person, not a good person.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we have learned.
Right. And then this is being produced by Jordan Peele and like J.J. Abrams, whatever, he's fine. But Jordan Peele getting in on this and having an all-black cast, I just had to see it.
And Jordan Peele was the one that did Get Out?
Yes. And Us.
And Us. Mm. Oh, that was good too. Yeah.
Now, Us wasn't all about race.
No.
Get Out was a fascinating...
They're all both psychological.
Very thought-provoking.
Yes. Psychological thrillers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Still, in both cases, yeah, very, very thought-provoking, very psychologically
And that's kind of what this seems like it might be turning out to be.
Well, I don't think we're going to have a full-on horror show.
Actually,
here.
No, because we'll talk about
Well, we have some horror. But the H.P. Lovecraft stuff was all about... it was about people, like, there was spookiness. There was something was going on in the dark somewhere, but you had to investigate. It was as much mystery and detective and a lot of culty stuff. But then there's also monsters that will eat your face. But you wind up... His most famous title was In the Mountains of Madness. It's about going crazy because there's these things that are out there that your brain just can't possibly comprehend. Now, I never really read H.P. Lovecraft, but my history is from high school when some of my friends got into the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, which is based on all of his mythos. Mm-hmm. So we did some tabletop role-playing, which we were high school kids. The person that was game mastering did a fine job, but not necessarily as like investigative and sort of psychological as it could have been. Probably a little more action than there should have been. But still, it gave me a little bit of grounding in like what the monsters are and what the sort of general themes are supposed to be. So I'm still pretty excited for this show.
And I don't have any experience except for what's the game called that we have? Is it called Into the Madness? What is it called?
The one on the Xbox?
Yes.
I think it's actually called Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
Okay.
But you didn't get very far in it.
I didn't get very far. It's actually kind of hard to play because of the madness part of it. It's, it makes you really feel like you might be losing your mind because it's just strange and bizarre things that it puts you into. These weird hallucinations, but they're kind of real, or I don't know if they are real. They must be real. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I never tried that one, and I missed it when you were playing it. And then I was doing like Witcher and some other stuff. But
I played a little more, and
someday.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
You should play more now that we're doing this show.
I don't know. It's kind of scary. Maybe give me bad dreams.
Now, here's what I didn't know until like right before we watched the episode, and I was just Googling a couple things about Lovecraft Country. Even though this is based off of the H.P. Lovecraft mythos, it's also based directly off of a book called Lovecraft Country, which was written in 2016 by a guy named Matt Ruff. So there's a complete separate work of fiction that this is based on, but that work of fiction is based on Lovecraft stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I don't want to know anything about the book. If I look at the Wikipedia article, the characters are all kind of the same. And then when I look under plot, it says the book consists of 8 interconnected stories. And then I stopped reading because I don't want spoilers. I don't know if that's all very short. We're going to see all that in this one season. Maybe there's 8 seasons worth of material. I don't know. And I want to wait to find out. But I will show you the cover of this book. I would suggest Googling Lovecraft Country novel because the cover of the book is pretty interesting. There's not a lot to it. There's a house on a hill, but then at the bottom of the page, what do you see there?
Oh my goodness, the Ku Klux Klan is there.
Well, it kind of looks like Ku Klux Klan hoods. They could be ghosts, but they're also kind of wavy, almost like tentacles. So I feel like there's a lot that one could interpret from what we see on the cover of this book. There's also, it's like comic book style.
Maybe all of the racists that are KKK, all the idiots that are KKK are going to be turned into those creatures.
Maybe that's the cult aspect. Maybe
let's talk about the show because we haven't really actually talked about the show.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the show. All right, I have other notes, but the opening of the show gives you a lot to go off of here. We have a guy. Well, he's our main character. We meet him, Atticus. Atticus Freeman. So we see him fighting in trenches, stabbing people with bayonet.
Right.
But then things take a weird turn.
Can we tell what war it is at that point?
Well, I thought he was stabbing white guys.
I thought it was like the Civil War or maybe the World War I.
Well, when I think trench warfare, I think of World War I.
Right.
Now, it turns out he served in Korea. So not World War I. And we didn't actually get a year, I think, on the show, but definitely it's not World War I times for sure. Like the style of everything is like, I think it's, I don't know, it might be 50s
or 60s.
I think it's 50s. So yeah, the trench warfare thing was kind of weird. But then as bombs are dropping, all of a sudden UFOs show up and then just all the craziest chaos breaks loose. So here's what I noticed. I noticed UFOs coming down from the sky.
Right.
Typical flying saucers. Then there were these walking tripods.
Right. Like War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, right. And then also some crazy tentacle monster flying through the sky. We also saw a full-on, probably Cthulhu. So we have the Lovecraft monsters, UFOs, War of the Worlds. Great. I did notice at one point a gladiator in like Roman armor in the background.
I did too, yeah, fighting.
Yeah.
Is it time travel too?
Like everything else seems to be a reference to something because this sexy lady comes out and she's like red and she's in a bikini, but that's from
the alien ship.
That's from John. What's it called? John Carter. John Carter of Mars, or whatever it's called.
Oh.
She's from that set of fiction,
Okay.
which he's a fan of. So he's dreaming about all of his favorite things. But I don't get where the Gladiator fits into that. Maybe later in the show we'll find out.
Maybe that's, one of his favorite books.
And Cthulhu bursts out of the ground, and then he's killed by, oh God, I knew who it was. The most famous black baseball player. What's his name? What's his name? Come on, babe, you can do it.
Sorry, I don't know. Samsonite.
Okay. No, I'm going to say no.
What do we know what the name of his book was?
Which book?
Did we find out what the name of the book is that he's reading right now? I know we were trying to figure it out because we couldn't really see
he
it.
was reading John Carter, he was reading A Princess of Mars.
Okay.
Yeah. Jackie Robinson.
Oh.
That was Jackie Robinson.
Okay. So, right, splits
Cthulhu in half, and then Cthulhu comes back together. But it turns out it's all a dream. I mean, it would be a cool way to... I was kind of hoping that it was... that what we were seeing was like the end of the show. Like it's all going to come to this, and all of a sudden there's UFOs and Cthulhu monsters and all sorts of shit, but it was just a dream. Okay, so he wakes up, he's traveling on a bus. He just left Kentucky. We figure that much out, and he's going to Illinois. The bus gets a flat tire. That's when we see him reading A Princess of Mars. And we just start seeing... they set the environment through all this. He's sitting in the back of the bus. There's a truck that comes to pick everybody up when the bus breaks down, but he's not allowed on it. Neither is this other lady. I don't think the other lady bears any significance, but we do see where he is, like the climate he's in, which is full segregation, right?
Correct. Right.
But we learn a little bit about him. He loves pulp heroes that beat the monster and save the day. And he was in the army. And he joined to get away from his dad.
Right.
Now his dad is
volunteered.
Yeah.
Right. So he's going back home because his dad is missing.
Right.
And his dad sounds like a real asshole.
we wind up learning that we don't learn much about dad, except he's definitely an alcoholic.
Right. He likes to drink because he's always at the bars, and I think he's just always drunk.
Well, I get the feeling he might have been violent, or
right.
But they don't really say.
At least like mentally abusive or mentally abusive.
Some kind of abuse. And he had to get away from it. Makes total sense. Okay. Next, we wind up in Chicago. That's where Atticus was heading. But first we meet George Freeman. He's in bed having a nice moment with his wife.
Oh,
I'm struggling with her name because they call her Hippolyta.
Yeah, that's her name.
But I always thought it was pronounced Hippolyta. So I apologize in advance. If
you're going to say Hippolyta?
Well, because it's from the Greek myth.
Right,
she was the queen of the Amazons, right? Why do I know that? So, yeah, if I say it wrong sometimes, I'm sorry. I'll try to say it like they do in the show, Hippolyta. All right. So we start learning a little bit about his job. Like he runs an auto shop or something, but he also is making a travel guide for, well, let's just say what he says, Negroes. Right. Again,
right.
sign of the times.
A safe,
a
safe,
guide
that,
it's like safe Negro travel guide or something like that. I didn't write that part down, I don't think. But that's his thing. He goes traveling around trying to figure out where it's okay to go. That's a valuable service in this time.
Right. I wonder if he's making money or if it's just...
Oh, he must be.
People are buying it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you...
I wonder if this is a real thing.
Probably to a certain extent. I mean, that movie Green Book, which got panned for a lot of reasons, but we never saw it. But that was, I think, also based on reality of when you're traveling around
these are the places that will welcome you.
Right. These are the hotels you can stay in. These are the restaurants you can go to. So yeah, I mean, I think that's grounded in some form of reality. Again, really unfortunate, but it's good that someone was out there doing it to keep people safe. Okay. We meet a young girl named Diana. That's George and Hippolyta's daughter. She likes to draw comics. Quite the artist.
Right.
She loves Atticus. So we meet them. They're cousins, I guess that would be, right?
Yes.
We also learn that Atticus's nickname is Tick, if that should matter later. I like Atticus. It's a good name. All right. So they wind up in the body shop, and Atticus is looking at some books, and I have to bring this up because he pulls out an H.P. Lovecraft book called Outsiders and Others. And either him or George mentioned that one of the keynote passages in there is called On the Creation of N-Words. I don't want to say it. Is that okay?
Yes.
No one's going to hold me for that, right?
No.
You should have said it. I know sometimes people say the N-word when it's in context of something, but I just don't want to. But what I do want,
so bad.
What I do want to share with you guys, though, is just to get a clue as to how bad H.P. Lovecraft was. Now, he's long dead. He's not making any money, I'm happy to say, on this show. It's just a short passage, a little like poem. And it says this. When long ago the man's created earth, in Jove's fair image, man was shaped at birth. The beasts for lesser parts were next designed, yet were they too remote from humankind. To fill the gap and join the rest to man, the Olympian host conceived a clever plan. A beast they wrought in semi-human figure, filled it with vice, and called the thing an N-word. So, right there, you get they're basically beasts, not quite human, and filled with vice. So addiction and I assume like the 7 deadly sins,
Wow.
Laziness, lust, all the things that would make them undesirable. That's H.P. Lovecraft.
And that's what some people still believe. Some people still believe this.
Totally. We have one in the White House. Well, actually, we have more than one in the White House now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what people think. It's very upsetting. Okay. All right. So back to the show.
Yeah, that's a little too heavy. Let's
go. All right. So Dad's been missing for 2 weeks. They talk about how he's an alcoholic. But Atticus pulls out a letter. This is why he came. He got a letter from Dad. Hadn't heard from him much in a long time. We know that Atticus's mom is dead, but he was doing some research. Dad was. And we find out, he said he found out where their mom's family came from. And the letter seems to point to Arkham, Massachusetts, which excites Atticus because Arkham is a place in Lovecraftian lore. So he calls it Lovecraft Country. I thought it was because of
Batman.
Yeah, I don't know why in Gotham City it's called Arkham Asylum. That's a little weird. Because it's for crazy people. I don't know. It seems like it's stolen straight from Lovecraft stuff, maybe in tribute.
So what is Arkham in Lovecraft stuff?
I think it's a city where a lot of the supernatural stuff is focused on.
Okay.
I think there's also an asylum there because everyone's going crazy, but I don't know 100%. If you know,
we could look it up.
Join in with us on this. We could use some feedback from Lovecraft experts. But it was George is like, no, that's not a K, that's a D. So it's actually Ardham, Massachusetts, which is not on any maps.
Right. Well, and actually they seem to be like disturbed by that.
George is acting really weird.
Right. He knows something.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't write that down, but he was acting very strange. Like he doesn't want Atticus to figure this out or read the letter or anything. He's very uncomfortable.
Oh, well, so first I thought it was because he had had an affair with, but that's his brother. No, yeah, he could have, because that's his brother, right? George's.
Yeah, I guess so. They have the same last name, so yeah, they must be.
So yeah, I thought he had an affair with his wife, who's now dead, and that's what he found out.
Oh,
well, that would be what he thought he found out.
That would be an interesting reveal. Maybe that's why everything was okay once George started helping him read the letter because he realized it wasn't something incriminating. Interesting.
Because you said the picture shortly before that, there was a picture of all three of them. And she's standing in the middle. The guy in the back, which is George, I believe, has his hand on her arm. And then we see that scene kind of following that.
Interesting. All right. We could have some family drama come out of this. All right. So Atticus is looking for information about where his dad could have gone, goes to a bar. I don't know if any of this is important, so I'm going to go through it fast, but meets a guy named Tree, and then goes into the back and finds a guy named Sammy. Sammy's the owner of the bar and apparently very gay. He's getting a blowjob.
Very, very, yes.
Getting a blowjob in the back alley because you couldn't do it out in the open. Well,
just getting a blowjob. Right. Well, that doesn't make you gay either, but...
Getting a blowjob from a guy doesn't make you gay?
Well, you didn't mention that it was a guy.
Well, no, it was a guy. The guy went running down...
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, at least Atticus is cool with it. He's like, yeah, whatever. You're just Sammy.
Right.
We do get Dad's name, Montrose.
But also, Tree has the information about the car where Dad...
Right. Well, Tree's the one that told Sammy or something. Yeah. So we know that Montrose left with, he said, a white man.
Right.
Very well dressed. Could have been a lawyer. Very fancy silver car.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely a dude. Okay. So that's it for there. There's a block party, which it just serves to introduce us to new characters. We meet Ruby and Leticia. Ruby is a singer, performer, rocking out the block party. Leticia's her little sister?
I think so.
Definitely sister. Who comes in. They sing a number together. It's pretty good. And Leticia notices Atticus because he has his shirt off and he's all muscly. So obviously that's going to be a thing eventually. But Leticia, or Letty for short, seems to be sort of a down on her luck type. She can't hold a job. She's been traveling around the country a lot. Ruby's not happy about her missing their mom's funeral, all that.
Right.
So they fight a little bit.
And she didn't pitch in for the funeral.
Right. Well, she doesn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
She needs a place to stay even. All right. So we see, what do we see? George is nursing his knee. They talk about the guidebook. He talks about how it's safe travel for Negroes. Diana, the little girl, has been drawing various pictures on their maps of the surrounding area, which I wouldn't think would be necessarily important, except Atticus keeps talking about it. But Artem's not on any maps, but they're going to go to where it might have been a couple hundred years ago, which will be in Devon County, Massachusetts. And right there, Diana drew a Reaper on the map. Spooky.
She also drew a bunch of other little things on other places on the map.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That'll come up again and probably again and again in future episodes. But that one's a Reaper. As Atticus goes home, we do see a fancy silver car nearby. But he gets back to what I assume is his dad's place, his childhood home. And he picks up the Count of Monte Cristo. Don't know if that'll be important later. I believe the central theme of that book is a prison break. So I don't know if that will matter. And a handgun, and then he calls South Korea.
Right.
So there's a little
girlfriend,
mystery. I would think so. She had a nice voice. A spy.
You shouldn't have gone back.
Well, but he didn't say anything to her. She picks up the phone, and he just breathes into it.
She says, "Tick, is that you?"
Right. So she knows who it is. She doesn't have caller ID, but she figures it out. And she says he should not have gone home. She knows something.
Yes.
Lots of people know things.
Maybe it's a fortune teller.
His favorite South Korean fortune teller.
A Korean tea reader.
The next morning, everyone's getting ready to go. It turns out Letty's going to go with him on the car trip. We find out that she also used to be a sci-fi nerd when they were kids. And Dee gives George a comic book for the road. It's a new character she made up. Again, don't know if that'll be important later. But
that one is after her mom, really.
Oh, is that what the deal was? Mom was the main character on that one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and Hippolyta volunteered to go on one of these trips instead of George. It sounds like he's taken some serious beatings on his trips, but he's afraid that she'll, it's too dangerous, and then she's kind of upset by that. And
it's almost as if he's dying.
I think he's just getting worn out.
Maybe,
right?
But I don't know.
He's had both of his knees broken at different times.
Maybe.
He did mention that. And then we get a driving montage where we see a lot of, they're getting lots of nasty looks on the road, right? They're not welcome in a lot of places.
On the way to wherever they're going.
Right. And they stop in a place called Simmonsville. We see a slow motion shot as they drive past the fire department where a dog's barking. Turns out that winds up being important. We can go through this part pretty quick, but they stop at a diner. Waiter's acting kind of weird, and Letty winds up overhearing this guy's phone call, and they sort of piece it all together. But it looks like the diner they stopped at used to be friendly to black people.
Right, that's why they stopped there.
And then it got burned down and quickly refurbished.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not friendly to black people anymore.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And those fire guys that we saw earlier come speeding around the corner with a shotgun while they're running away. They, thanks to Letty, they figure it out in time, and they get out. But the key moment there was there's this big car chase with lots of gunshots.
Right.
And all of a sudden the silver car shows up.
Well, yeah. So they were going to crash into each other. They were going on the same parallel, and it was coming to a point, crossroads.
Right. But Atticus gets past the silver car, and the silver car gets in the middle of the chase.
And it stops.
and it like spins out. Mm-hmm. And if you look really carefully, like, I think what it was supposed to look like was that the silver car spins out and then the truck with the rednecks T-bones it and they flip over and they all get flung out of the car and they're probably hurt or dead. But there was no actual contact there. The silver car spun out and the truck flipped, but it didn't hit the silver car.
It flipped outside of its little protective bubble.
Yeah. The silver car has a protective bubble. I think a lot of us would like that feature. Like Ford, Toyota, if you're listening.
Protective bubble.
I mean, if we have to worship demons for that, is it worth it? That's all I want to know.
No.
But getting out of the car is not a fancy lawyer dude, but a lady.
Fancy lady.
Very fancy lady. Maybe even a little too fancy to be a lawyer.
Oh, right. Because somebody at the bar said, if I had to guess, he went with a lawyer dude.
Right, that was Sammy said that.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, she
was
could have been a female lawyer.
She could be, but she was so fancy.
Right. No.
She had that big hat on, which seems like it'd be really uncomfortable to wear in a car. But whatever.
She seemed more the type of croquet and crumpets.
I was thinking that too. Oh, God. All right. So they go to Letty's brother's house. His name is Marvin. This is where Letty was going to be stopping. She wasn't going to go on the whole trip. Marvin's been helping them research, which is good. Like I said, the Call of Cthulhu stuff is always about like researching, trying to figure out where stuff is, what's going on, the backstories, all that. And he's been helping with that. He's been trying to figure out Devon County. We find out that one of the towns, Biddeford, was founded by witch hunters. And the sheriff there is named Eustace Hunt, and he appears to be a ginormous racist. But Artem should be, and he like points to a map. It's in the middle of a forest, so they're going to go check that out. I assumed after this scene in the house that George was going to die this episode because he had a nice moment on the phone with Hippolyta where he said, you know what, maybe you should take the next trip or we could take it together. Mm-hmm. And she's happy and he's happy and everyone's happy. He's got this
look in his eye like he's just this in wonderment of the life he's going to spend with his wife.
Right. He really loves her. And he finally figured it out. I mean, if this was Game of Thrones, definitely dying this episode.
Oh, yeah.
But not this time.
Bad death coming up. Or Walking Dead.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much any show these days. They're all about, like, as soon as someone has hope, you have to kill them. Mm-hmm. That seems to be, it must be a uniquely like American real life, storytelling. Yeah. And then Letty and Marvin have a huge fight about money, Mama's funeral, all the same kind of stuff she was fighting with Ruby about. And she's not going to stay. She's going to go with them after all. We do hear a little bit more about Pops during all that. Montrose Finch. Not Finch. Atticus Finch was To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. Montrose Freeman. But just that he was super distant and he never talked to Atticus. But it turns out that George was having to talk about Atticus all the time because Montrose wanted to hear the news. He just wouldn't reach out to his own son because he's a broken man.
Yes.
All right. They get to Devon County. They stop. They're looking for some kind of road to lead them where they want to be. And of course, what's interesting here is that there's some fluttering of birds up in the trees. And Atticus tries to figure out what's going on. And he says there must be a Shoggoth there. A blob with 100 eyes.
Right.
He's telling this to Letty. Right. That might be noteworthy. And then this shithead cop pulls up behind him, and we learn about the racist fucking country.
With no eyebrows.
That's not the worst part about him, but yeah.
I mean, his shitty attitude's the worst part.
I mean, clearly that was important because you remember that. You don't even have notes in front of you, and you remember that guy had no eyebrows.
He was weird looking.
He tells him that Devon County is a sundown county.
Right.
Which apparently means if you're black and you're in the county after sundown, you're going to get shot by a cop.
Or hung. Really tortured and then hung and then maybe shot or shot and then hung.
Oh, yeah, he did mention hanging them.
They would probably shoot him in the legs and the arms and then hang him.
Right. Yeah. All sorts of horrible things.
Maybe the
Still doesn't feel like a whole lot's changed, man.
No.
They pretty much have to beg to make a U-turn. And then he chases them out of the county, starts ramming them even, but they get out just in time before he has to start shooting them. But then they get immediately stopped by more cops on the other side of the county line. And it is Eustace Hunt, the dickhead we saw.
That was such a
you were very tense.
Oh my God. It was such a suspenseful time, like 5 minutes. They're driving 25 miles an hour because they can't go over the speed limit.
Well, it doesn't really let up. We get one moment of relief where they're all happy that they got out.
Right.
And I felt it was such a weird moment because I'm watching them and they're like relieved and they're smiling. But I felt like you shouldn't be like you should be happy you're alive, but that's not something to smile over, that this guy won't even let you into his county after sundown. But I guess when that's the reality of the situation.
You are so ecstatic you can't control things.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just so fucked up to see it, I guess, to see it from the outside. It's like, what are you celebrating? You survived, but God, what a piece of shit.
They could have all just beat him up.
Well, he had a gun.
I know, but there's 3. And he's a skinny white man with no eyebrows.
But if you're violent against a cop, then
all
hell is going to rain down.
People will find out.
And speaking of all hell raining down on them, okay, so it's Eustace Hunt. He's a bad dude, and they takes these guys out to the woods. They're lying on the ground. It sounds like he's going to set them up for some kind of crime, just so he has an excuse to kill them.
Right, he's making them admit that they did something that they didn't do.
Right, and there's
do you remember what that was?
They were supposed to say they didn't commit some kind of burglary. They were looking for gypsies. Which again, more racism, but they found these guys instead. And they're supposed to like deny that they had any part in it. And then Atticus is too smart. He like recognizes Eustace from the research they had done and uses his name. And he's like, how'd you know my name, boy? And it just gets really uncomfortable. But before they get a chance to be murdered, we did some freeze framing. So I wrote, a creature with a billion teeth leaps out.
Mm-hmm. And they heard the...
Yeah, there were some funny noises. Like, that's not a bird. And just tears one of the cops apart.
Yeah.
He's just like, there's an arm left. And that's all, and a lot of blood.
Yeah. All over the Leticia and Atticus.
And George. They all got drenched. It was kind of awesome. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see a racist, murderous dick get destroyed by a monster.
Yes, it is.
Even though it means bad things for our heroes. Although part of me was like, well, maybe the beast only eats white people.
Maybe the beast is getting returbution for the racism.
Yeah, right. Maybe he's an Antifa beast.
It's Antifa.
Turns out that's not necessarily the case, but he did take out the cops first. Or they. I think there was more than one. But it was hard to tell.
Yeah, I think there are a few.
All right. So
very much like the silent show with Jim from The Office.
Oh, A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place,
yeah. Yeah. Bunch of monsters that move super fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tear you apart. All right. So our black heroes make a run for it. But George falls while they're making a run for it, and the cops don't know what the hell's going on. But at least they don't blame it on the black people.
This is all your fault.
This is get those black guys. This is their fault for these monsters.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine having to be an actor and act like that?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. Less for Eustace, who was being a dick, but like more for the guy with no eyebrows. Like he was using the N-word and just...
Yeah, that would be so hard.
Oh, just being so abusive.
I would
verbally.
go home feeling horrible.
I feel like it would be easier to act out the physical abuse of having them down on the ground and putting guns to their heads than it would be to act out the verbal abuse. Yeah. Like, I don't want to say the N-word in this stupid racist poem, even though it illustrates what a stupid racist was. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say it.
I know.
It would be hard to be paid to do that.
Okay.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So... Letty and Atticus find a cabin. They close themselves in, but two of the cops force their way in. They seal it up. George is being stalked by the creature, and we see its back, and it has eyes all over. So the general consensus on the internet seems to be that it is, in fact, a Shoggoth, which makes sense because that's what Atticus was talking about before. But when you look up the actual description of a Shoggoth, it is... And Atticus said this too. It's like a blob with 100 eyes, right?
Well, yeah, this looks like a blobfish with 100 eyes and legs and arms,
but also like muscles.
Right,
like it was sort of humanoid. So here's a description from H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness.
Okay,
all right. It was a terrible, indescribable thing, vaster than any subway train, a shapeless congerie of protoplasmic bubbles, faintly self-luminous and with myriads of temporary eyes forming and unforming as pustules of greenish light all over the tunnel, filling the front that bore down upon tunnel-filling front that bore down upon us, crushing the frantic penguins? Okay. And slithering over the glistening floor that it and its kind had swept so evilly free of all litter. Okay. Very blobby. These guys didn't seem blobby.
It's like a slug.
But maybe they just kind of shape-shifting. I don't know.
Well, they looked blobby to me.
I think the eyes are the giveaway, though. Like, It has to be a Shoggoth.
Lots of eyes.
I guess. Yeah. So, and the cops to get there, one of them is Eustace. And he is not looking good. He took a big bite to the arm.
Yeah.
He's very pale. He's clearly in shock.
Like half a shoulder and half an arm left.
And his voice is all funny sounding.
Oh, he's going to die.
But they do figure out, well, when George gets back to them, he thinks they're afraid of light because he had a flashlight that one of the cops left behind when he left his arm. There was a flashlight in it. He thinks they're afraid of light. So Letty, now this is where things get stupid for a second. They have 2 flashlights.
Right.
They could have given one to Letty. But they didn't.
No. Letty's going to run because that's the only one they'll let go.
She's unarmed. She has no flashlight. And she has to now sprint to their car so that they can get the car for its headlights.
Which is a long ways away.
It was quite a run. She almost didn't make it. Mm-hmm. They could have given her a flashlight.
Right. That's all she needed to make her life so much easier.
Seriously. But while she's on that sprint, Eustace winds up transforming into a Shoggoth.
Right.
Yeah, he starts getting and he starts convulsing, and the other sheriff's getting all freaked out. But Atticus,
you need to shoot him.
Yeah, Atticus and George are like, shoot him, like he's growing a million pointy teeth.
Give me the gun, I'll shoot him.
Just shoot him. By the time they do, it's too late.
He chomped his head.
Yeah. The cop died. They got the shotgun and shot him in the back, but it did almost nothing. There was blood and then it sealed right up because these are amorphous blobby monsters. Mm-hmm. So you could kill them with fire, I'm guessing, since they hate light so much. But
sure.
you can't kill them with gunshots. Brute force doesn't really do it in the Cthulhu universe.
So they're already to the point where we just have to stay alive for the night. Because when sun comes up, we're going to be safe.
Right. Yeah. So they need those headlights. So Letty saves the day. She hits the monster with her car, but she got the headlights
so fast. I mean, that was some real running, and she was fast. She's a fast runner.
Yes.
I bet she was a runner in high school.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she said she was. I mean, the character was.
Right.
Yeah. But the actress also.
She must have been. She's a good runner.
And they wind up setting up a bunch of road flares. They have the headlights from the car. And that pretty much that might save the day, but the things are still trying to encroach upon them. And then there's this piercing whistling noise out from somewhere in the forest. And all the monsters run away.
Right.
They all clear out.
Yes.
I'm guessing it's got something to do with the lady or the guy in the silver car.
Right.
I don't see why we would think it was anything but.
Uh-huh.
But I guess they stay there till morning and we see them.
Yeah, did you talk about Letty crashing through the thing and killing the thing?
Well, I don't think she killed it.
I think she killed it.
She hit it with
the car, and I think that killed it.
I thought it ran away.
Maybe. I don't know. But that was a pretty big moment.
She did save the day by crashing through the cabin. That's true. All right, so they survived the night. Next morning, they're walking down the road, all covered in blood, which I feel like that's about as bad as it could get for black people in a racist area.
Yeah.
It's bad enough that you're there and
covered in blood.
Covered in blood's not good. And if there's DNA testing, it's cop blood.
Yeah.
There's not. So
I recognize cop blood when I see it.
And the show tells us through its title cards that they are now in Artem.
Right.
That's on their title card map. And as they're walking down the road, they stumble into this huge mansion estate place. Huge grounds. Ginormous house.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Very cool looking.
Well kept.
And there's a silver car there. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So I guess they know that it's probably safe to approach. I don't know. I mean, that silver car has been omnipresent.
Well, I mean, at this point, they're like, what else could happen?
Yeah, that's true.
This is a nice place.
We need to find something. We need to find something before dark.
Yeah,
let's just give it a shot.
Shelter.
Hopefully these people won't shoot us on sight just for being covered in blood. And then I wrote down, the whitest man ever answers the door. I feel like that's the best way to describe whoever
he was. Pretty white, yeah.
He was very white and very blonde.
And a butler.
Was he?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Seemed like it.
And the guy says, we've been expecting you, Mr. Freeman. Mm-hmm. Welcome home. That's how his voice was, right?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Something like that. Yeah, and then in the previews, we know they're staying for a little bit, long enough to...
Well, yeah, the preview from before from a couple weeks ago, like that preview, as well as what we saw after the credits, which was like coming up this season, it might be their house. I'm having a hard time figuring that out. I'm sure the answers will come, but
it seems like there's a lot of white people.
There's a lot of white people in the house
that also have interest in the house of some sort. Like maybe it's all their brothers and sisters or family members of some sort, but...
Yeah, but didn't they keep using the word, maybe it was birthright?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yes,
I think it was
like
birthright.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the house, or is that a situation, a power?
Well, maybe a white man fooled around with one of his slaves.
Could be.
And in his will, it said anybody born from who knows.
Although this is Massachusetts. Oh, wait, would Massachusetts have had slaves? Maybe.
Everybody had slaves.
Well, I don't think Illinois had slaves.
Anybody that had money had slaves.
I don't know. Maybe I should study that before I talk about it. The one, like, I don't know what to make of any of that. I mean, these guys are obviously going to be in some larger plot involving demons and cults and monsters. The one thing that this particular episode was making me think about without like the coming up next stuff was maybe Atticus is the reason the Shoggoths showed up. He said, oh, there must be Shoggoths over in those trees.
He's got magic.
And then there's Shoggoths in the trees, a few miles down the road, but still. So I'm kind of thinking, yeah, maybe he has magic. Or... No, I guess that's it. Maybe he has magic. Magic is very much a thing in the Lovecraft universe.
In the horror universe,
too. Well, yeah, but like specifically in Lovecraft stuff, like you could study and do rituals and you could summon monsters and try to bend them to your will.
Witches.
And that would, I mean, maybe a player character, like let's take it off the role-playing game. Maybe a featured character, a hero, could maybe go down that path if they needed to save the world, but it would also be like the cults, there would be people trying specifically to summon Cthulhu or his minions to bring about the darkness onto the world. So like magic's a real thing.
Well,
so he could be magic, except the Lovecraft stuff's fiction in this world.
Is it though?
Well, not anymore, but it was. Okay. Well, all right.
Maybe they're writing about something that's real, or maybe he himself is like born from warlock blood.
Warlock blood.
And he's a witch, and all these people are like witches in the White House.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Fancy house. Yeah, maybe it's Hogwarts. Western region.
Maybe. Okay. So maybe H.P. Lovecraft's writings in this world aren't, people think they're fiction, but they never were. Maybe like the real, quote unquote, real H.P. Lovecraft in this universe was just writing about shit that he found out was going down. But what if Atticus's power that he never knew about was actually to bring shit to life himself, and he's the reason the monsters exist at all? Maybe it was all fiction until he showed up.
But he's reading old books.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, like his dream, like that dream of his that we saw at the beginning, could become a reality. Like it doesn't necessarily just have to be Lovecraft. Maybe if he thinks about it hard enough, he'll summon a UFO with a sexy red lady on it.
Maybe.
That'd be awesome.
I bet he will. Yeah. You want to do
summon
that?
one of those for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What?
Us?
Hey, she was pretty hot. I'm just saying.
She was all right.
Ugh.
That red's going to get everywhere.
No, it's her real skin.
Well, that's what they want you to think.
When you summon it and it becomes reality, there's no makeup involved. That's her real skin.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Then it's okay, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
I mean...
Well, think about it.
I'll think about it.
I'm going to work on the summoning project. You think about that.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was episode 1 with a little preview of what's to come. But what's to come, I mean, there were so many different scenes flashing by. Who the hell knows? We know we're going to see some of the characters again from episode 1. Like Ruby seems to be a major part. Like Letty and Ruby are going to have more stuff to do. I don't know that we saw Dad. We did see some rituals happening. We saw a lot of creepy white people. Yeah. But we don't know what's going to happen next episode because that was a preview of everything. So, no clue. Next episode, we'll find out what's going on inside that house. I guess.
I hope so. I'm sure we will.
Hey, so far, we're just following one set of characters on a single timeline.
Oh my goodness. But are we?
As far as we know.
Now you just jinxed it.
We might get some flashbacks, find out more about Atticus as a kid and stuff. But that will be not confusing if it's young Atticus. We'll be able to follow that. Flashbacks are okay.
I wonder how Mom died. Did we know? Cancer? Nope. We don't know.
I don't think we found out. I think we just know she died. Could be anything. Could have been a ritual sacrifice.
She's a witch.
Maybe she got ritually sacrificed, and that's what drove Dad crazy and alcoholic because he couldn't handle it. That would fit with Lovecraft stuff. His brain snapped. He saw something bad and his brain snapped, and Mom was involved in it, and that's why Atticus has special powers.
Maybe.
That's all. It all makes sense. I think we figured it out.
Maybe she gave her life because he was supposed to be sacrificed as a baby.
Or what if she was trying to summon a monster just for fun and it ate her?
Okay.
That could be too.
I like that.
All sorts of possibilities. So I look forward to finding out. By the time this is released, we're only a couple days from episode 2. So yay. So follow along with us. Tell us what you think. We would love to hear your thoughts and anything we got wrong about Lovecraft lore. Hit us up. You can find me on Twitter at Pot of Thrones or email jeff@potofthrones.com.
Same for me. Jennifer at Pot of Thrones. No. Yes.
Yes.
Or Jennifer@potofthrones.com.
Yes.
I'm not going to do Kid Free Weekend anymore because what's the point?
Well, you are at Kid Free Weekend on Twitter.
I know. I'll just change it or
Maybe
something.
We'll resurrect that podcast.
I don't know.
People are asking for it. I've had queries.
2.
And it would be a great excuse to talk politics, so I think we should go back to that.
We'll see.
All right, but you are at Kid Free Weekend on Twitter.
At Kid Free Weekend on Twitter.
Right. So let us know what you think, or if we missed anything, because that would be awesome. All right, so until next week.
Stay sane.
Shoggoth!
Shoggoth!